Good morning and welcome to the Devon and Torbay Combined County Authority Board meeting on this, the 26th of January. I apologise for those people maybe watching the live stream. We are a little bit late, but we did have difficulty with the diversions that were in place. So thank you very much for making your way through with us this morning. So welcome to this meeting. I'd also like to thank Councillor David Palethorpe and Phil Shears for inviting us to Teignbridge District Council, who are hosting us today. And I would like at this point to invite Councillor Palethorpe just to say a few words. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. As I say, welcome. I think it's safe to say we're living in interesting times when it comes to local authorities. I also think it's safe to say that from Teignbridge's point of view, and I'm sure I speak for other colleagues across the county, that Devon in the past for decades has been ignored or shortchanged basically, and from central government, and certainly from our point of view, economic development is essential if we're going to go forward in this council with LGR and working with colleagues. And that is one of our major priorities, clearly, along with the need for housing. And I know that the CCA team are building capacity at the moment, and we're very open as a local authority to talking about how we can help in the short term and how we can support you going forward to deliver the priorities that I think we all need to see going forward. So from that point of view, I think that's all I wish to say. I'm not somebody who goes in for long speeches. So welcome to Teignbridge, and I hope you have a really productive meeting. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. So we are not expecting a fire alarm today, and should the alarm sound, please exit via the nearest exits, which are either side behind you in this room, and follow Teignbridge colleagues to the meeting point. Just advise you that the meeting is being live streamed, and please ensure that you use your microphone when speaking, and also could I ask that mobile phones and electronic devices are turned to silent. And at that point, I will now call this meeting of the Devon and Torbay Combined County Authority Board to order. Item 1 is apologies for absence. Do we have any apologies, please?
Yes, we have received apologies from Lawrence Buin, Associate Member. We've got Sharon Robbie attending in his absence, and we've also received officer apologies from Matthew Thorpe.
So, Chair, if I can just come in, can I just confirm to all members and to the board that Councillor Julian Brazil is on his way. He will be 5 minutes. So we are quorate, so we're able to allow the meeting to continue, but obviously, Chair, you would appreciate there are a number of papers in which both lead members, and Julian Brazil being that lead member, needs to be present in order for those matters to be determined. But I'm assured that he is 5 minutes away. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. We will move on to item 2, which is declarations of interest. An opportunity for any members to disclose declarations of interest. At this point, there are none disclosed. So we will move on to item 3, which is the minutes of the CCA board held on the 24th of November. I invite members, any corrections for accuracy, happy to move this forward at this point from the chair. Do have a seconder, please. Thank you very much, Councillor Arnott, to second. And we'll move to the vote. All those in favour, please indicate. Thank you very much indeed. That is unanimous. Councillor Bialik.
Yes, can I just ask a question? I was looking through the minutes and I just wondered if the officers say, well, we're working on that, or we haven't got a proposal yet, or we haven't thought too much about it, because I know you're into budgets and everything. But we did discuss at the last meeting about the resignation from the associate role of the Police and Crime Commissioner, and a few remarks were made about how we're going to perhaps have another associate member, although I was arguing about the Devon forum councillors, but I don't know, has there been any work or thoughts about any of that? Will something come back to us? I just wonder. Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy to come in, Chair. So, Councillor Bialik, obviously we've just had the Local Government Association governance peer review. We are awaiting, whilst we've received their feedback, we're awaiting their report. As that comes through, we thought it prudent to await the outcome of that and consider it as one.
Okay, I will need to move the items of the agenda around, and I will be moving to item 6. The reason for that movement of the agenda is you will see that the other items require both lead members to vote in favour to have a positive resolution. Item 6 is a simple majority decision, so I will move forward to item 6, which is the Connect to Work programme. Thank you. Phil.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. This is a brief update on the Connect to Work programme. I think, as members will be aware, the Connect to Work programme is one of the new DWP programmes that was announced about 18 months ago to replace the Work and Health programme. So working with those furthest from the labour market, particularly those with a disability or the barrier to work to find a role and be supported in a role. Two elements to it, principally. There is a mentoring piece for those in work, so it's working with those to sustain a job, with data telling us that in Devon in particular we have a number of challenges around long-term sustainability of employment. And then a 75% piece which is around moving those, particularly those with mental health or with physical disability, into a role with the support for both the individual but also for the employer. So this is a bit of a shift. Large programme, around 25 million across Devon, Plymouth and Torbay. This is a programme which is actually, it's actually the responsibility of Devon County Council working with the other two authorities. So it's going to be, having had a discussion in the week, a DCC programme principally. But as part of the CCA's role as the combined authority, and as the guardian of the Get Devon, Plymouth and Torbay working strategy, we have to report on it once every 3 months as part of our ongoing progress. So this is the update. As members will have seen, we're making steady progress on it. And actually, it's been a fairly productive couple of months. So the programme has now gone live. It's truly live in Plymouth. We've had the first, as of this morning, 80 referrals. And we've got 25 people into work on the back of that, which is great. Still early days. We've got to do 6,000 by the end of the programme over the next 5 years, but first hundreds what counts. We've also now commissioned the contracts for the area. I won't go through detail too much, but you'll see 3 to 4 sets of contractors in place covering North, South and Torbay. They are going to be mobilising over the next month, and they will be providing both the mentoring service and the other piece. The only other element is Learn Devon, which is already mobilising as well. They've had their first couple of referrals, which has been interesting, just learning our way through that. But that's the in-house Devon service, which provides about 30 to 40% of our provision. Now, in terms of the programme going forward, we will be coming back quarterly just to report on this. We are going to be a bit more specific about what's happening in places. Interestingly, this is a programme which has got a lot of emphasis on Newton Abbot. Actually, one of their core hotspots is Newton Abbot, and the team are going to be working out of this building and the library in the centre. So you'll be hearing more about that and some of the stuff that we're doing with individuals. We're also going to be seeing a lot of focus on Torbay and Northern Devon, because that's where we're seeing those hotspots starting to come forward. Plymouth, I won't say too much, but there's a lot going on around South Plymouth as well, which we're already on. So, just a quick update this morning, nothing too dramatic, but just good news. We are on it, the programme is live, we will be reporting back quarterly, and happy to take any questions about where we are.
Thank you very much indeed. And at that point, we will open up for questions or comments. Councillor Arnott.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mr Adams, very much for that report. Very welcome news. I was just looking at 3.6, I think it is. So in terms of the governance issues that apply as Plymouth is outside of the CCA, could you, if it's possible, just give me a sort of a pen sketch of how this works in relation to working with Plymouth and the CCA, and if Plymouth was in the CCA, how they may differ. Thank you.
No problem, Councillor. Yes, so at the moment, the way it works is that it is subject to a joint governance group chaired by the Deputy Chair of SEAG, Sharon. We have set it up as a joint governance piece with Plymouth's Employment and Skills Board. So at the moment, the membership deputy leader of the Employment and Skills Board in Plymouth and our SEAG board come together through a subgroup of SEAG, and they act as the programme governance. In practice, it's managed through our own governance mechanisms over at DCC, and it's part of our accountability framework and scrutiny and the rest of our sort of piece, so subject to DCC members. But we've set it up. In the event, however, that Plymouth were to join the CCA, we'd need to have a conversation with DWP. From our point of view, we would want it to be part of the joint mechanism and the joint scrutiny and use SEAG and the other arrangements that we've already got in place. The slight niggle around Connect to Work is at the moment it's actually contracted with the local government side. So even if Plymouth were to join the CCA at present, technically it's a DCC programme that we're subcontracting with Torbay and Plymouth. Now, we may want to reconsider that. We may want to have a conversation with DWP about moving the contract to the CCA in due course, particularly if Plymouth joined, because there is a rationale for working together on it. But for now, that's the way it would be set up. Even if Plymouth joined, they would become part of the joint governance formally, but it would still be sitting within the scrutiny and accountability arrangements for DCC.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Long.
Thank you very much indeed. And it was just to do with 3.8, and I noticed the procurement's done under the light touch regime. I wonder how that differs from the heavy touch regime and why the light touch was chosen. Thank you.
Yeah, in formal terms, you're able to skip a couple of steps in the formal procurement framework. It's normally around the pre-selection and around some of the way that the open framework works, and we've got an ability to do that through it. In practice, it's not actually that much different, and the heavy and the light are not that much different at all. To give you a feel, it took us 2.5 weeks of Torbay, Plymouth and Devon officers sitting in various rooms going through open envelope, pretty much what you'd expect from a formal public procurement. Light touch regime is a bit of a misnomer, really. It just means that you can skip one part of the opening process, but it's not actually that much lighter.
Thank you. Councillor Lewis.
Thank you very much, Chair. Really good scheme, really positive. I'm glad that it seems to be taking off. When I first looked at it, I thought that possibly the businesses needed an incentive to take part as well, which the government didn't include. And maybe that will come later if it proves to be more difficult. A bit like apprenticeships, we've got people who want to do it, but we haven't got the businesses who will take them on. So very positive. In the future, you're going to report quarterly. Will you be reporting, will there be a breakdown of where the jobs have been found? Because I think that would be helpful. Thank you.
Yes, we can do that. And what I'll do is we'll go back. We've been having a conversation about how the scorecard for the programme works. So actually, if people want, we can do district, county and local authority specific metrics, and we'll come back. Just on business incentives, interestingly, that's a discussion that's going on right now because government wants to, and you may have seen in the press, release another programme over the next 18 months called the Youth Guarantee Scheme. They're piloting it in 8 MCA areas at the moment, and we're on the list for the next round. One of the discussions with DWP is if this and that scheme are in the market, we may need some additional incentives for employers because that's a lot in the market, and 2 separate schemes, you may need something else. So watch this space on that one.
Thank you. Councillor Bialik.
Thank you. Along the same theme as what Chris was saying about monitoring and the information and what we can be told. I mean, what would be useful, I would say, is that we can understand the outcomes, but it would be interesting to know how many came in, how many survived all the way through, what was out, what the sort of employment, so we can have a rough idea on how this is working. And also, as many of us might have heard on the radio, was it last night, today, something like 700,000 graduates in the country are not in work at the moment for a number of legitimate reasons. I'm not arguing about that, but whether or not we're focusing on some of these young people in particular, to try to get them going with all of this. And perhaps, as we say, we're going to get quarterly feedback. Would it be a good idea at some stage that this might have been an item that may go to a scrutiny at some stage later on, to actually look at it, look at the work, for the scrutiny to have a look at it, because I don't think it's our role to scrutinise everything, because that's what scrutiny's role. I would say how this is functioning, the appropriateness of it, is it hitting the right things, would be legitimate questions for scrutiny at the appropriate time, Chair, to examine, to look back and feed back to us. Thank you.
Thank you. Phil?
Yeah, I think, so working backwards, on scrutiny, that'd be absolutely fine. As it's a DCC programme over 10 million, it will need to go to DCC scrutiny anyway. So in some ways, we'd be more than happy to do either session. It's imperative that we do it so that there's visibility on what we're doing. On the grads issue, this is a weird programme in that actually it's open to all. So one of the things that we are doing is the young person, so if you're 14 to 25, although we can mainly work with 16 plus, you are eligible for the programme, and that includes grads who've got more than 18 months worth of unemployment. You would be fully eligible for the scheme. We are having a look at whether or not we can tweak the eligibility to go slightly further down than that, so 12 months or 6 months. And the reason for that is, as we know, a young person that's missed 6 months of employment is basically their economic prospects, sorry, Monday morning, economics prospects are affected for the rest of their lives. So we've got to look at that in the round. But yeah, grads are definitely in programme, and we're looking at that in a minute. Just on outcomes, that's absolutely fine. We're already reporting on destinations, numbers, and referrals versus job outcomes. So that's the 70-20 that we've already got. We can pick that up through the scorecard, and I'll go back to the team and we'll have that conversation, Councillor Bayat.
Thanks, Phil. Delighted to have Sharon Robbie with us this morning, Vice Chair of our Skills Advisory Group. Any comments from yourself, Sharon?
Thank you, Chair. Just to say that the Connect to Work piece is working well, and we have hit the ground running. So rest assured there are lots of questions, and thank you for those. We are working together, so I chair that group, which can be difficult at times because we have 3 different groups. We have the Torbay, Devon and Plymouth, but actually at this moment in time we're all working really, really well together. Plymouth did have a bit of a head start on us, hence their numbers being slightly ahead of us, but we're playing catch up and we'll get there. Thank you.
Very much. Councillor Brazil.
Thank you. Apologies to everyone for that I was late. Yeah, just it's really following on from what Phil said here about outcomes, because what are the outcomes? I've no idea. You say numbers, but I don't. What do I compare that with? Is that good, bad, indifferent? So there needs to be. And I think, again, as far as the scrutiny is concerned, is that there needs to be a way of knowing whether it's working or if it's value for money. You know, if we get 30 people into work, but it's cost us 1.5 million, it'd probably be better just to give them 50 grand each and leave it. You know, those sorts of things. I think it is really important that we have a handle on.
Yeah. No. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Sharon.
I was just about to say the people that are being referred, the people that will take part in this programme are those furthest away from the jobs market, and they have quite complex needs. It's not a quick fix, this, and they are quite complex needs, especially those with mental health issues. So there are those 2 strands. So take your point around tracking and monitoring, and is it value for money? Absolutely. But this isn't just about sitting somebody in front of a computer and letting them be able to write a CV or gain some soft skills and then putting them into employment. It's much more than that.
Thank you indeed. Phil, I think Sharon might have answered the question. Anything further to add?
No, I mean, just following on from Sharon's response, what we can do, though, is we'll do some cost-benefit analysis stuff for the first round of outputs, because, as Sharon says, let's take one individual with a mental health challenge. At the moment, they're costing us between £50,000 and £100,000 a year, actually between services, so us as the councils, JCP, health. What we're finding through some of the employability pieces, every one of those that goes back into work, we reduce our costs by about 50%, and there is a net benefit for us in doing it. So that's a good challenge, and we'll take that away and come back with some case studies, because I think it's important that we can give that narrative to the public.
Thank you very much. I think we've come to the end of the questions, so I thank members for that. Our role in this particular item is to note the report, and that's exactly what we're going to do. I'm happy to move that from the chair, that we will note that report. Do I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Fife-Cook. Now, this is one for majority of all members. Councillor Bialik will be really pleased about that. And therefore, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour, please indicate. Thank you, and that is unanimous. We are going to, as I say, move around a little bit on the agenda. We're going back to where we jumped a few moments ago, and we'll be going back to item 4, which is the revenue and capital budget monitoring. And I invite Sean to present.
So thank you very much, Chair, and in the absence of the Chief Finance Officer, I'll present the report this morning. This is the Period 9 Revenue and Capital Monitor reporting to members, and a few points to make. So overall, we're now forecasting an overspend against our set budget of £288,099 to the year end, and that is a significant adverse variance based on the previous report provided to members. But as explained in the report, the main reason for this is that the CCA has received from the public sector audit appointments the proposed fee for the audit of the CCA's accounts, which is £205,600 as set out in the report. That is significantly higher than the £40,000 that was assumed when the budget was set in March, and is entirely disproportionate, as the report sets out, to the overall budget and expenditure of the CCA. So the Chief Finance Officer is making very strong representations to PSAA on significantly reducing that fee. But we thought it was prudent to report to members that discussion in the report, because if it cannot be rectified, it will become a pressure on the CCA's budget. We're also reporting that since the previous report, that the local government finance settlement has confirmed that over for the remainder of the spending review period, and that there is capacity for ongoing capacity funding of £390,000 a year. Again, we're continuing to engage with officials at MHCLG in order to be able to put forward the case for investment in the Combined Authority to continue to develop its competency and maturity. But I did want to also advise that the overall position in terms of available resources for the CCA is within the available resources that the Combined Authority has, and that's partly because of carry forward reserves from previous years. So we are in a position. And just a final note on the preparatory work for the budget for 26-27, we are intending to bring that to the March budget, to the March meeting of the board, which will sort of set out a longer term approach to the CCA's finances and the programmes that it's responsible for, and we'll be engaging with members throughout February on that direction before it comes to you for approval. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. Questions? Councillor Bialik?
Just a quick one. Any feedback on 1.8? You made a submission to MHCLG. I wonder if we had any news of that, where that may be.
Councillor Bialik, yes, thank you very much. As I said, officers are in active discussion now with MHCLG officials, and this follows two things. One was a capacity survey which MHCLG conducted last year of all strategic authorities, just to understand what resources were available to them of all types. And secondly, we submitted a response to the local government finance settlement indicating that the CCA has a view that it should be funded at least equally to mayoral authorities. The outcome of that we're awaiting, and we'd expect something in the local government final settlement once it's announced on the 6th of February, and we'll report back to members once we've had information.
Thank you. Councillor Long?
Thank you very much. Mr Anstey, it was just in relation to 1.5 and the reference to the development of the Devon and Torbay visual identity and brand. And I was just wondering whether, given all the uncertainty over local government and indeed this body, whether that was a good use of everybody's time and money at this stage. Thank you.
Councillor Long, thank you very much for that. So this relates to work that was commissioned at the start of the CCA coming into being, and you will have seen actually in relation to the corporate plan, the local growth plan and so on, the identity come through. That is an expenditure that's already being incurred. There isn't any further planned expenditure in relation to that until there's further certainty on the financial position of the authority.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Brazil.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, the public sector audit appointments. I think we need to be very robust on that. If they don't change it, we just tell them we're not paying it. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. If you look at the size of the accounts that we're talking about, that they want that much money to audit it. I mean, audits are pretty much, I don't have a great deal of time with them. They're always in retrospect, and they never really give you much, you know, just tell you what you knew already. So the idea that they're going to charge us what is a quarter of our revenue budget for an audit, I mean, that's just totally ridiculous, and they need to understand that. So I hope that that if they refuse to change that fee, then I hope that comes back to elected members, and elected members can say, we're not actually going to pay that. Secondly, so what we're saying there is that has over budgeted us. So we put in 40,000. It's over budgeted by about 100, and they've charged us 205. So that's an over of about 165. But actually, the revenue budget is considerably more than that anyway. So we were going to go over budget, whatever the case. And I'm slightly concerned about things. I mean, Swithin's talked about the branding stuff, but other bits and pieces as well. So who's taking those decisions to spend that kind of money on things that are going to take us breaking our budget? I mean, from a, from talking of, district and county, if we behaved in that way, i.e. spending a lot more money than we've got, or was in our revenue budget, we'd be hauled over the coals for that. So I'm a bit concerned there doesn't seem to be a disconnect about the amount of money we've got and then what we seem to be happily spending money on that we don't have. Well, we do have, but obviously that's unsustainable in the sense that it's only because it's sort of it's a handover from a carry forward from previous years. But of course, you can only spend that once, and so I mean we do have an audit committee. I would very much encourage them to look at the sustainability of the revenue budget, because I don't think we should find ourselves in a position that we are overspending. We're spending beyond our means. Yeah, those are the comments I would make.
Sean?
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Brazil, just briefly on your first point, I can assure you that officers are robustly at making representations to PSAA, and of course we'll engage again with members on the response. On the second, where there has been additional items of expenditure incurred, so for example on local transport authority arrangements, finalising the growth plan, they are one-off pieces of expenditure. It's not recurring revenue and is part of the capacity funding that MHCLG have provided to the authority in order to be able to establish itself. But of course, understand the point you're making, and we'll take that back to the Chief Finance Officer as well.
Thank you. Councillor Arnott.
Thank you, Chair. So I'm going to say this thing 3 times. I've said it once. This is number 2. Plymouth, So we're cracking on, aren't we, with this? We've already had the first oops. The audit is more expensive than we anticipated. And I agree with Councillor Brazil. I think back at the district, that kind of variance, there'd be a kind of, well, how did that happen? Who got the quote? Whatever. So I think this does, and again, I'll come to this at the next item as well. I'm concerned about making a huge amount of progress with branding on Devon and Torbay CCA if there's a possibility that soon it might be the Devon Torbay and Plymouth CCA. So I think we are getting to a point where we have to have an open discussion in this place, Chair. And it's not on the agenda today about making a formal approach to Plymouth, actually writing to them as the CCA, yourself and Councillor Brazil as the two lead members, and saying, guys, do you want to come in before we go too much further with this? Thank you.
So I think there's two questions. One is political, which I'll respond to, and then I think if we could ask Sean Anstey to probably... who got the quote? In other words, can we just explain the process that's involved in how we actually deal with audit and how we get... how we can only go to one particular place and how they set the cost. But we'll get an explanation on that. But from a Plymouth point of view, and the the door is always open. The door has been open since we actually went to government and set up the Combined County Authority. You, as well as Julian, will know, because you're in the same meeting as me, we've had that conversation, and we continue to have that conversation with Plymouth, and there will be a time that is right for them, and we will be able to talk more publicly about when they are in a position to do that. And I believe that that is not today. Come back, please, Chair.
I get that, Chair. But on the other hand, I think it would be courteous for us to write to them, because as far as I'm aware, there isn't an existing correspondence since the correspondence back in, presumably some point in 2024, maybe February was it, when they go, no, we don't want to go ahead with this thing. I do think we should communicate with them, because we are, after all, sitting in public, we're discussing this in public. I'm uneasy just leaving this to, well, who knows what conversations are going on in Whitehall about this. But I won't labour the point for now. I just think we should write to them and remind them of this, just as we have said that in future, if we go to a mayoral authority through that, there's a place for Cornwall, but let's not go there today. But I just wonder, how much longer are we going to let this one just linger? Might Plymouth come in at Christmas, fireworks night, Halloween, midsummer? It's in the public interest now. We're getting into a little bit of sticky stuff financially here, I think, to resolve that question, to correspond. Thank you.
Sean, can we move on to the... Sorry, my apologies.
I'll come
in. Yeah.
Chairman, if I may come in terms of the PSAA. So the PSAA is responsible for appointing auditors and setting the fees for authorities that have chosen to opt into the scheme nationally. Most authorities have opted in rather than choosing to go through their own procurement processes to appoint their auditors. And through that process, then the CCA has been allocated auditors and the PSAA have set the fees. However, and in speaking with our Section 73 officer, who's been that primary point of contact, the early stages of the process require very little information to be submitted by us. And that has generated the scale of fees that has come back to us. We have now submitted a very comprehensive explanation of the size and nature of this CCA as compared we believe they may have made some assumptions based on other strategic authorities. So we've provided that information. We are very clear that this is not an acceptable, it's not a proportionate fee, and we will escalate it through PSAA as we get their initial response back to our first challenge, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Councillor Arnott.
Thank you, Chair. Just on another matter, the LEP money. So is that it now? Are we out? Is there anything still likely to dribble through in future, or is what's in the accounts here, what's going to be?
I think I can answer that one, Councillor Arnott. So the sums that are included in the operating budget are actually ring-fenced for the Growth Hub that has come through from Somerset Council, the accountable body remaining for the Growth Hub, to the County Council, who delivers the Growth Hub on behalf of partners. The inclusion of an income line of 103,000 is agreed between Devon and Torbay from the sums that are owed to the original 4 councils from the LEP has been included in the account. The remainder of the resources from the LEP, once the memorandum of agreement is signed and that's still waiting Plymouth signature, will flow to the councils, so Somerset, Plymouth, Devon and Torbay councils, for economic development purposes, and each council will determine what it wishes to do with those sums. That's revenue and capital.
Thank you very much. Just check there's no more questions. Sorry, Alan Dykes.
Yeah, I'm just curious, as we come to January and looking at the accounts, and there's a fair number of one-off events in here, when do we get a view of what next year looks like, or possibly year 3? Because in my world, I'd have at least a 3-year view at this stage to worry about, rather than just the timing of what's happening in year 1. And I guess my second comment is, even 40,000 in my world, 40,000 gets you an audit of a £37 million electronics company. I'm amazed that the number is so large, but I don't understand this world.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the budget setting. Obviously, this particular report is obviously historic and is a noting position for us, but let's just talk a little bit about moving forward. And it's a bit unfair because we haven't got our finance person in the room, but...
Chair, as Sean explained in his introduction, so that will be coming forward to our March meeting, clearly significantly awaiting the announcement from government early next month, but that budget setting will come through to our March meeting, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. I will move to the proposal now. So
I just ask supplement. Does that forecast for 1 year or for 2 years? How far out do we look?
It should be for 3 years, but we will, and clearly the discussions, and in addition to that which Sean set out, Sean and I actually did also have a meeting with MHCLG officials off the back of the capacity survey to very clearly make the point in terms of how the Devon and Torbay CCA was impacted as mayoral strategic authorities weren't impacted. So in addition to filling out the capacity survey, doing a thorough response on the finance settlement, we've had that meeting. It should be for 3 years, but we will await to see what they say when the details come out next month.
Thank you. Councillor Arnott.
Sorry, Chair. I was late, but let's make it worth coming this way. So I just need a question, probably. The variance in the employee costs, just like to understand the background to that, please. Thank you.
Councillor Arnott, that primarily relates to when the budget was set, it had a number of positions in it. And there was a delay in some of the recruitment, so the variance explains the sort of staggered start of the employees that work for the CCA.
So no posts lost, it's just a question. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Not wishing to appear to be rushing members to note this, are there any final questions? Okay, in which case, looking for a proposer to propose this. Councillor Lewis to propose noting, thanking you. And a seconder, please.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Brazil. All those in favour, please indicate. Thank you very much indeed. That is unanimous and includes both lead members for the constituent councils voting in favour, which gives that a positive response. Thank you very much indeed. We will move now on to item 5, which is the UK Shared Prosperity Fund Q3 update. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. So, brief introduction. This report updates on the delivery and the progress in terms of outputs of the UK Shared Prosperity Fund and the Rural England Prosperity Fund. This was a request and decision at the last CCA board meeting to receive a report at this meeting, given that the funding was due to be all spent and achieved outputs by the end of March. The report sets that out exactly as requested. However, in the intervening period between board meetings, MHCLG have confirmed an extension to the timeline for delivering the programmes, both programmes, until the end of September. So in conducting the review of all the remaining projects, each of the programme sponsors has been asked to verify whether they can spend by the end of March or whether a time extension is requested. The report sets out some projects that did request a time extension, and it also sets out the assessment of the Programme Management Office as to whether others would benefit from an extension. So based on a risk assessment, a few have been highlighted in amber, where we believe a quarter or potentially 2 quarters up to the end of September would be beneficial to ensure that the programme is mitigated against some of the delivery challenges. The report is seeking approval for those extensions. It's also seeking approval for an options appraisal for a small amount of funding that was held as a contingency for business support that has yet to be allocated. It is hoped that others may wish to contribute to increase that pot and come forward with an alternative business support programme, or it could be to extend the existing business support activity. And as the approval in the report suggests, that we recommend that that is a delegated decision to the Chief Exec in consultation with leaders of the 2 constituent authorities and in consultation with the Chair of the Business Advisory Group to ensure that that money is allocated and spent on what business support is needed by businesses. I draw your attention to Appendix B, where you can see some of the outputs that are being delivered in terms of the various themes within the UK Shared Prosperity and Rural England Prosperity Funds. Some of them have overachieved, some of them are yet to achieve, and we are confident, based on the review of the programmes, that by extending the amber and the red rated ones into next financial year, they will achieve the outputs that are originally requested. Obviously, the CCA's ability to deliver this type of funding will impact on future funds should they become available from government. So I think it's very important, hopefully the report conveys that we have done a thorough review and we can deliver the outputs as originally stated. The capital schemes are the ones that are probably the hardest to deliver in the funding time that we were presented with. And I would also remind members that this project got delayed by government in the very beginning, which is why the extension is particularly helpful. And this CCA and others have been lobbying for that extension, so it's pleasing to note that that has been granted. Happy to take questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Brazil.
Yeah, the first one is around the 28,000. So that was, and it says in the report, 3.12. Southampton and West Devon have a combination total of 28, nearly 29,000 agreed as a contingency. Are we confident that they no longer need that contingency? Because if they suddenly do, and we spend it on something else, that would be a bit embarrassing. My other one is around so presumably it's been extended till September. If projects aren't finished by September, am I right in thinking that the money would just return to government? In which case I would suggest that we have a plan B up our sleeves, and that is that some projects that are carried out by councils, albeit funded from their own resources at this stage, if we required, we can just flip them and say that actually we've used the money from here to do it. Because I appreciate that everyone's saying, oh no, don't worry, it will be fine. Well, they would say that, wouldn't they? So what we don't want to do is to be in a position where we've got to give money back to government, and I would hope that there will be a number of schemes across the county where we have that we can, if required, suddenly say that these actually need to be funded from these pots of money, so we don't lose any. And because I'm just in the same way that everyone's confident that the projects all will be done by the end of September, I'm pretty confident that some of them won't be, because that's life.
So to Councillor Brazil, your first question, yes, South Hams, West Devon have conveyed that they have not got an answer to spending that contingency as we sit here. But obviously the options appraisal would look at any alternatives that those two authorities have asked or considered come forward. So it's not a surprise, it doesn't leave a dent in either of those two authorities' budgets. The second point about a plan B, absolutely. We've applied flexibilities, freedoms and flexibilities on the capital programme that members of this board will be aware of. Within the ability of the grant funding agreement with MHCLG, we will look into how we can do that. But your summation of the fundings being clawed back into government where there is underspend is absolutely the correct, which is obviously what we don't want. We want to ensure that that money is put to good use, a meaningful way to benefit residents and businesses locally. We do have a number of schemes which are overperforming, and I suggest that that could be part of the Plan B, where if some projects are not on where they should be, on target, that we look to top up those that are being successful where there is obviously good evidence of further demand. But we can certainly take that away as the programme team and look at a Plan B. We will actually continue to monitor as well on a month-by-month basis. The extension of the deadline until September doesn't mean that we wouldn't continue to do that as a matter of course and as good programme management. So hopefully we can bring reports back to this board as you require.
Thank you. My question is along a similar line, to be honest, because obviously my concern would be a similar situation as if this money had to be handed back. And it is positive that we've got through till the end of September to get these across the line. And I would imagine from our responsibility, from our legal responsibility as the CCA, basically our job is effectively just to passport the money across and try to ensure it's spent. Anything that doesn't get spent, monitor that and then send that back to government. However, what are we doing in terms of actually monitoring the spend? So over and above and beyond what we're kind of legally entitled to do, but absolutely making sure that we don't get to a situation in September that somebody pitches up and say, oh, by the way, here's 30k that we weren't able to spend. So almost like a piece of enhanced monitoring, because I mean the thing is September comes around very quickly.
Well, we absolutely do track all the finances, and we chivvy and chase for the invoices to come in through the project sponsors, regardless of whether it's a county council or a district council or a partner that has been brought in to do that delivery. We are obviously ensuring that we have the right evidence to make those payments, so it is defrayed on time. But it is closely monitored in terms of the level of spend that's going out the door. And I think that is partly why we have amber rated a number of the schemes in your report, because those projects said they could still deliver by the end of March. And on our experience with when invoices come in, when payments are received, when delivery takes place, the programme team particularly felt that there was greater risk to some of that assessment by the project sponsors. Hence why we're recommending that we take that decision today. Just because there's an extension doesn't mean there won't be the same level of scrutiny and commitment by the team to ensure that delivery sticks to target.
Thank you. So do I presume then that the red and amber sections in the report, they were already known to us? We haven't had to do an additional piece of work to find that. We already knew that they were there. First question, I guess.
So we before the deadline was extended, these were rated as potentially, yes, not delivering, absolutely. And we were looking for mitigations in place from all of those projects, similar to what we've just talked about in terms of a Plan B. The red rated ones do tend to be capital, and they were always going to be hard to deliver without the extension from government. So yes, the risks were there, in part known. The whole point of the review that the board requested at the last board meeting was to go further, go deeper, go more in terms of the scrutiny of where those projects are actually at, and that is what the work the team has undertaken between the last board and this board. But Phil, you manage the team. Would you like to add anything?
Yeah, as Kerry has mentioned, practically the way that this works is that we have a monthly review cycle with each of the districts and each of the local authorities, including DCC. The three-man team sit down with those individuals and go through line by line the expenditure, and we've been doing that since day one. It's the way that we manage these programmes. We did it the same with the capital programme. The red and amber ratings that you've got in front of you, most of them, we've known about them for about 3 or 4 months, and what we're trying to do, as we've discussed through the report and as we've discussed in this room, is get us to a point where, as Councillor Brazil says, we've got those early warnings so that we know when we can redeploy, we know when we can have that conversation with you as a board about it. Nothing that arrives here should come as a surprise. That's the way that we manage it. No surprises. Has got to be absolutely the way that we do public money programme management.
Thank you. Sorry for coming back on this, but absolutely accept if we know that they're red and we know that they're amber, we know what they are and they're coming through the system. If we hadn't have had the extension, we would have been sat here effectively sending a load of cash back to government now, because we haven't, you know, because we haven't done that pushing, getting across the line. We haven't got a plan B now. So we would be sitting here saying, well, here's all of this money that would have gone back to government. Thankfully, they've extended, but we don't want to get in that situation for September. Try and provide me with some assurance that I'm looking at this wrong.
So, Chair, yes, this report might have read a little differently had we not had the extension. You asked us last month to complete the review. We could have been presenting today the risk around the red projects in particular, and presented you with an alternative plan B as to how we could have minimised that risk. During that review, the announcement was made that the 6 months became possible, which is why you have a different report in front of you.
Thank you very much. Much appreciated. And I apologise for hogging a lot of the questions there. Councillor Arnott.
Just a technical question, Chair. If I can ask Amanda Barlow, perhaps. So, Councillors Bialik, James and myself, we're all leaders of councils that are listed here as beneficiaries. Do we have a sort of blanket dispensation around items like this, or should we declare now?
So, Chair, I can confirm that would be the case on the basis that you are members of the CCA and carrying out the function of the CCA, making those determinations as that body.
Okay, I don't think we've got any further questions. The recommendations are there in front of us, 1, 2 and 3. This requires majority of the constituent council members plus both lead members voting in favour of this. Therefore, I'll ask Councillor Brazil to see if he's happy to propose.
Yeah, I'm happy to propose.
And I'm happy to second. Let's move to the vote then. All those in favour, please indicate. Thank you. And that is unanimous with both lead members supporting that. Thank you for that, members. We now move on to what will be our final item this morning, which is item 7, and it's the LTA Transport Implementation Plan. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Chair. And members will be aware that considerable work has been undertaken throughout the year and is ongoing in relation to preparatory work for the autonomous exercise by the CCA of local transport powers from the 1st of April. Members agreed the approach to transport at its November meeting, and this report provides an update since then. The transport is an area of work that is impacted by the outcome of as yet unknown outcome of local government reorganisation, and so we're proposing to members that from an operational perspective largely speaking, the operations will remain in place, and we treat 26-27 as an ongoing transitionary year. And in practice, what that means is, for example, things like concessionary fares, subsidised bus services, and so on, will continue to be the responsibility of both constituent councils, although accountability will rest with the CCA. We're also reporting that since November, just prior to Christmas, the Department for Transport issued a consolidated and multi-year funding settlement consolidating a range of different funds that were previously issued separately, so active travel, highways maintenance and so on, and that letter is provided in the pack for members to see. I should also point out that in relation to capital expenditure, the vast majority of that funding is for highways related activity, and that the report is therefore outlining that in line with the assumptions that both constituent authorities have previously made, that funding for capital schemes is passported through to them. A condition of the funding is to produce a local transport delivery plan, which will cover all of the funding that's available and consider those local and other resources that will be available. We're also confirming and suggesting to members that you approve that given the operational arrangements, that no transport levy is issued by the CCA for transport, and that we'll come back with a further report in March after having consulted with members on the development of that transport delivery plan, and they are the recommendations, Chair, that's set out in the report.
Thank you very much indeed. So we'll open up for questions or comments or debate. Councillor Arnott.
Well, I promised you a third mention of Plymouth, Chair, so I don't want to let you down. Yes, and I can see why we're going through this transitional year now. It makes absolute sense. But given that buses don't stop dead on the fringe of Plymouth, and neither do highways and all other transport infrastructure, I do think this item is a particularly compelling reason to ask Plymouth to join us as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Arnott. Councillor Arnott. This actually...
That's all right, Thomas. That's
thank you very much. My apologies, sir. It's this particular item that was the item that effectively caused Plymouth to walk away from the Combined County Authority. This is the biggest item that Plymouth had an issue with. So absolutely, we need to revisit that. But that was the item that caused them not to be here at that particular time. Councillor Long.
Thank you. There is tantalising reference in the report and in Mr Anstey's comments about a possibility of a future transport levy. I wonder if the ankle could be revealed further about what that might possibly look like in the future and how that might be possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Long. So the order that brought the CCA into being provides the ability for the Combined Authority, assuming local transport authorities in future, to issue a levy to its constituent councils. That is an arrangement that operates across the country, actually, where local transport authority duties are fulfilled by a body that is separate to the constituent councils. The answer to the question is it's entirely linked to the operational arrangements that are put in place for transport. And primarily, for example, if you take concessionary fares and subsidised bus services, if the operation of those at some point moves to the CCA, then there needs to be a mechanism, given that the funding for those is made from a variety of different sources, for the CCA to be able to, with agreement, work with its constituent authorities in order to be able to cover the costs of transport. As I said, that's a mechanism that's in place in other transport authorities across the country. So whether that happens or not is entirely a question for the constituent authorities and for members, and is entirely linked to the operation of transport authority responsibilities. And that's why we suggest in the report that the as yet unknown outcome around LGR is a material factor in determining the future operational arrangements for transport, and then therefore may or may not have a levy in future.
Thank you. Councillor Brazil.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I think it's fair to say that as long as I'm sitting here as one of the lead members, that Devon County won't be getting a levy or paying a levy. In a way, this paper and what we've talked about here just sums up my issues that I have with this Combined County Authority. So we were told that this was great news because it means it would be, we'd leverage more funding. There isn't any extra funding. All that's happened is that it is now the funding has to come to the CCA, and then it gets passported out to the two constituent authorities. So if it wasn't here, it would have been situation normal. That's exactly what would have happened before. And it is in there. It says there's a proviso that actually the constituent authorities might be levied some funding to help pay for some, as far as I can see, nothing. In other words, we've seen that the authority is in danger of confirming what lots of people feared, that it's just yet another layer of bureaucracy with no additionality whatsoever, and it is not delivering that jam tomorrow that we were promised. And I think Councillor Arnott has made the case 3 times here that until we get Plymouth in it, we are just going to be a lame duck. So I think it's absolutely crucial that we start formally ask Plymouth what their position is and when they might join us, so we can actually get that out into the open and discuss this. It's no good just discussing it in smoke-filled rooms where they go, oh yeah, maybe, yeah, possibly, a few nods and winks here and there. I think we need to go down a formal track now of actually getting Plymouth on board, because quite frankly, if Plymouth don't come on board, I don't see any future in this thing at all. At the moment, it's just becoming like I say, another layer of bureaucracy. It's not giving us anything extra that the authorities didn't already deliver. So I find it incredibly frustrating that, and so we need to move it forward. So we all sit here and we discuss these papers, but actually, this is we've got scrutiny committee, we've got audit committees. This is the board meeting where we should be pushing forward these strategic issues that will make a difference. And if we don't, then I begin to worry about what are these board meetings for, other than mainly just noting reports, not taking any decisions. Albeit, I know we are on this one here, but I'm getting slightly frustrated, really, that I don't think we've made any progress at all. We don't seem to have a vision or a strategy about what we want to go forward, what we want to achieve, where we want to go. We're just parroting the normal central government tosh about devolution and money and close links with Westminster. I don't see any of that happening, quite frankly.
Councillor Arnott.
Yes. Can I play nice policeman then, please, Chair, and to go towards the positive side? I think this has been a feeling, without any criticism of officers at all in this, this has been a feeling amongst many non-constituent members as well, wither this thing. So we know at national level, under devolution, there is meant to be, England is meant to be covered by strategic mayoral authorities. We hear that these aren't being achieved at pace, to use this horrible term, but what we also understand is that this body, if it then covered the whole of Devon, would be possible to go to government and say, well, we are in shape to go for a mayoral strategic authority as soon as possible, which would then make this whole narrative to here make sense, because we had prepared ourselves for that moment with Plymouth to make the great leap forward. So I concur with Councillor Brazil. I think, although it's not on the agenda today, and although we've had really, pleasant engagement and chats, informal chats with Plymouth, we're practically in February now. I do think we have to make an approach, because as Councillor Brazil says, it isn't smoke-filled rooms. This is the public interest here. This is costing money to run this operation, and good. But there's a future out there which could allow us to absolutely multiply the potential benefits that the hard work of the officers and the members around setting up the CCA have made possible. I suppose the question is, Chair, when do we ask Plymouth?
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Long.
I wasn't going to speak again, but Councillor Arnott has pressed my buttons in the nicest possible positive way, that if we're going to have this discussion in a non-smoky, sunlit room, that we should also discuss the possibility of I note that North Somerset Council is exploring details of joining the Wessex Combined Authority. And if we're going to have a really, truly strategic mayoral authority, that we should be looking at joining that authority and not having some mayor who's going to poke their nose into the day-to-day dealings of the Devon, Torbay and Plymouth goings on. So if we want to be truly strategic and take off, we should perhaps open up that option as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, councillors, for your views and thoughts. But I do actually want to just to kind of bring us back to some reality of where we are. We actually have government put faith into Devon and Torbay and actually brought together the combined county authority that we're sitting at now. It was a plan that we originally took to government, the whole of Devon, Torbay, Plymouth and Devon. That's where the conversation started, and the reality is, when it came to the local transport authority piece, that is the point that Plymouth basically said, that is a step too far, we don't wish to be part of it. And Devon and Torbay actually took the strategic decision to go to government and say, actually, we would like to continue with the conversation of having a combined county authority. Now, the reality is, Councillor Brazil wasn't there, and Councillor Thomas wasn't actually at that meeting, because these things take a long period of time. They don't happen overnight. And I think there was, probably 3 or 4 different leaders in the mix from when this first started to when it's come forward. But I think it is our duty, it is our role, it is our responsibility to do the very best that we have with what we've got at the moment. We have a combined county authority. Governments are absolutely looking to see what we achieve with this. I think it is our responsibility to demonstrate what we can achieve in Devon and Torbay for the wider community, because it is that confidence that we can bring forward to government and say, this is what we've done, look at what we've managed to do here, and we want to take that forward. I think if we go and basically say, sorry guys, we can't make this work with Devon and Torbay, this will only work if Plymouth are here, I think that's personally a very negative story. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't have a conversation, but we do absolutely need to give the CCA our very best shot. We are all sitting here, and don't forget, we actually went, our local transport authority actually comes into play in April of this year. That's not something that's up for debate. That's something that's written in statute and actually will be happening. And yes, Councillor Arnott, the buses don't stop at Plymouth, but the reality is, it's a line on a map, right? And that is the same. We're back to the local government reorganisation, to be honest. The thing is, I came from Torbay today into Newton Abbot. Whenever I crossed the line, wherever that was, there wasn't Checkpoint Charlie there asking for, a fee to come into Teignbridge, as much as you may like that, David. There was no fee to come into Teignbridge. But that started a whole new conversation. But I do genuinely believe we need to give the CCA, in its form at the moment, our very best shot that we can do. That doesn't mean it stops us from having other conversations, but they can absolutely be dual-tracked at the same time. Okay, let's come back to the menu. The menu? Oh, you see, I'm thinking it's lunchtime already.
The full English, please.
Let's come back to the agenda. We are on item 7. Report's been presented. There's been some good questions and conversation. Councillor Bialik.
Yes, thanks. I'm listening to this loop we have about the authority, and we seem to have it most meetings. Is there, I'm not a constituent member, is there a further recommendation coming saying that we approach Plymouth or not? Because we can whinge about it and wax lyrical about these things, but unless you've got recommendations agreed and voted upon to do something about it, we can have this chat somewhere else, can't we? So I can't move nothing because I'm not allowed to vote.
Councillor Arnott.
So, sorry, Chair, I really didn't intend to only talk about this today. I also don't actually understand, in terms of our constitution here, how I could move something when it isn't on the agenda.
Okay, can I just stop you just for 1 second, because I don't want to drift off item 7 first. We are still on item 7, which is the Local Transport Authority implementation plan. You may well have a motion amendment that you want to bring forward at some point, yeah, but I don't think it wraps up into 7 directly. I will take as an action.
Yeah, do we have AOB today?
We don't. I will move to the monitoring officer, but we don't have AOB. But what I will say is I am happy as chair to take to write a letter, pen a letter, bringing this conversation together, which I'm happy to send to Tudor. Let's have a response back, and then at least that way, one way or another, we'll either have a timeline or we'll have something in writing. I'm happy to take that as an action.
So, Chair, yeah, just to confirm that there's not a motion for any other business. And I think that's the most pragmatic approach at this stage, would be for that proposed letter to be written, so we've got a clear indication, and then officers in a timely way can then pick that up and look and bring a paper back to allow that option and that motion to forward.
And the letter presumably from the 2 constituent lead members, so it's co-authored basically and co-signed. Is that happy? Thank you.
And that's one of the beauties of the CCA, the way it is designed, that the chair cannot effectively unilaterally do something different. It needs to be, as we have demonstrated today, basically that both lead members need to be in agreement. And coincidentally, item 7, both lead members need to be in agreement, and therefore we will move to a proposer. Do we have a proposer, please, for item 7? Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Arnott. Do we have a seconder, please? Councillor Fife Cook, thank you very much. And all those members in favour, please indicate. Thank you. That is unanimous, with both lead members agreeing that. Ladies and gentlemen, can I thank everybody for attending? I will confirm this meeting is closed at 12:26. The date of the next meeting is for the 30th of March at 11 o'clock, when we will be in Mid-Devon District Council. Can I ask members just to stay behind for 10 minutes so we can just discuss the dates of the upcoming meetings? Thank you very much. Meeting is closed.